when not necessarily asked to speak, and maybe that'll get me in trouble. But in reality, I do appreciate the opportunity to tell the story about how we deal with wastewater in Albany. There's a lot of good work that happens. Tell the story of where does that money go, answer questions, and try and be as transparent as possible. So if at any time you want to pull me off, let me know. I'll try and get through this fairly quickly. So I want to discuss real quickly our current rate recommendation, tell you where the money goes, tell the public where the money goes, and then just real briefly look at our updated 5-year projection. So a year ago when we came to you, we anticipated that we would need an 8% rate increase this year to maintain the targets that Council set of generating $2.3 million for capital investment, primarily in our collection system, is what that money is targeted towards. Our updated evaluation showed that we could still meet that target by the year 2016-17 with a 6% rate increase. However, sticking with that projected 8% rate increase would be a nice first, albeit small step, towards addressing many of those unfunded issues that are not included in our rate plan. Those are collection system capacity issues that we have not programmed in. Most of the discussion tonight is going to be about rates and revenue, but there's two sides to the discussion. That's the expense side and the revenue side. And I want to show you the slide here. This is our 5-year history of actual O&M expenses. It goes through fiscal year 2013-14. We're in, 2012-2013. We're in fiscal year 2014. Those numbers will be available in a few months. But I think we've done a fairly good job of trying to control our costs. And I want to remind you, we're able to control those costs even while we're facing significant operating costs down at our wastewater treatment plant dealing with the sludge. So I briefly touched on it. Why do we need a rate increase even though we're able to maintain our O&M expenditures? We want to stay on track to hit that $2.3 million annual capital revenue for investment back in the system. This is replacing old and worn out pipes. You're going to see some pictures of these in a moment. We do feel that predictable and moderate rate increases are a more sustainable way to go rather than wild swings in rates. Construction costs do appear to be rising. The Engineering News Record Index for this past year is over 7%, which is quite a jump. It's about twice what we've been seeing recently. And then as I spoke, there are unfunded needs out there, capacity issues with the pipes, and our issue down at the water reclamation facility that we need to deal with. So if 6% will do to keep us on track for the 2.3, why would Council consider sticking with the projected 8%? The capacity improvements, while we don't have our arms completely around what those are, our early estimates say those will exceed $25 million in costs. If we don't address these issues, not only will we have sewer overflows, but we'll be hamstrung somewhat in being able to respond to economic development, whether it's a new industry or industrial or residential growth east of I-5. So we think it's important to keep that in mind. So what's the impact for the average resident? At a 6% rate increase, they would see $2.79 increase in their monthly sewer bill. And if we implement the 8%, it's about 93 cents more at $3.72 per month. Now I want to tell you a little bit about where the money goes. Connect what customers pay with what they get. So let's break down what they pay. So this is for sewer only. A 6% rate increase, they pay $1.64 a day. If we go with the 8%, they'll be paying $1.67 a day. This here shows you what do they pay for combined sewer and water, so they're complete city utilities, and it ranges depending on their usage and the rate increase. Somewhere between $3 and $3.40 a day is what our customers pay for sewer and water service. So if you compare that with other services that our customers are getting, I do want to say these numbers are not official. I didn't go to the cable company. What I did is I actually looked at my bills. So a family of 4 could expect to pay about $5.34 a day for their cell phone plans, $4 a day for their cable, TV, and internet combined.
Mark, could you back up one slide?
Sure.
And you're showing the what the cost would be per day for the 6% or 8%. What is it currently for 6 and 8 units? Because that's what the jump's going to be from what it is currently to those new figures.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out where I have that total cost per day. Currently, if someone is using 6 units, they are paying $90.64 a month. If they are using 8 units of water, they're paying $100.48 a month.
So this would be adding $3 to that.
No.
This is per day.
This is the per day. This
so
is the per day cost for.
Yeah, okay.
5 average.
Yes, I mean, 335 times 30, and you know.
So that is the cost per day, not the increase per day.
Correct.
And actually, I misspoke. Those are the numbers they will pay if a 6% sewer rate increase is implemented. If it's currently, they're paying $87.50 for 6 units a month, and $97.07 for 8 units a month.
Going to go to that 90 and 102.
Correct.
Slide rule.
Yeah.
I do, but it's at home.
What's a slide rule?
And then if you combine,
Anyway.
if you combine the electricity and natural gas, about $3.70 a day. So again, we're comparing $3 to $3.40 a day for sewer and water to these costs.
Expensive cell phone plan.
Well, we have 4 people.
You still have an expensive cell phone plan.
Okay. So what do customers get? They get reliable service, and almost our ability to provide reliable service is an enemy to us because it's out of sight, out of mind. Imagine how people might think if there was sewage running in the streets and they were getting sick, their animals, their kids were getting sick. But we do provide reliable service that we're able to keep people healthy, we're able to keep our environment healthy, and we are ready to serve growth and industrial development here. As I mentioned, we have some issues with capacity we have to address. But if we address those, we're going to be an attractive community for people to locate, to live and locate their businesses. So where does the money go? 3 places. Debt payment, operation and maintenance, capital investments. On debt, $5.2 million a year is what we're paying off, and that should be paid off in 2034. Operation and maintenance. Well, where does that money go? It goes to our field crews who are out doing cleaning and inspection of our sanitary sewer pipes. You're going to see a graphic of the work they've done in the last 3 years. I think you'll be amazed. We inspect our manholes, 2,500 manholes. The lower picture is a vac truck, and you may remember earlier, I think it was late winter, we brought a request to council for purchase of this replacement vehicle. On the left there, that's our televising van where we go in behind the cleaner and send an actual television camera down the line and assess the line. And you can see there we have our crew member going through with the camera, noting deficiencies, noting where the sewer laterals are. So here's the graphic I was referring to. You can see between 2011 and 2014, we've done an amazing job as far as getting to know our sewer system. If you would have asked me in 2011, what's the condition of our sewer system, I would have said bad. And you would have said how bad, and I would have said pretty bad. And I couldn't get much more specific than that. But the work that our crews have done here, now we know what the condition of our sewer is. Our crews were trained on how do you rate the pipe so that we have consistent ratings. And these ratings are national ratings, so we're being consistent with other communities. And we're able to prioritize where do we spend the limited funds we have, which pipes are about to fail, which pipes have maybe 5 years of service left, which are in good shape, and we don't expect having to address them. So in those 3 years, about 176 miles of pipe was surveyed. So that's 80% of our system. And we've now turned our attention. This is just about all of our sewer collection system. There's some large diameter lines which we will be having inspected by a contractor over the next year. We have a few lines that we just can't get down because of obstructions that we're trying to address. But we're turning our attention to inspecting our manholes, because that's another place where you can have infiltration and other issues, and you'll see a slide what can happen with issues at a manhole. Here's some pictures of Albany's sanitary sewer system. As you can see, there might be some problems with these pictures. On the left-hand corner, that's called a protruding tap. That's where a sewer service or a side connection has just essentially been stuck in the pipe and it's an obstruction. On the left, you have roots in a pipe. The upper picture on the right is actually a bend in the pipe, not at a manhole, a good place for things to hang up and cause a blockage. So we have issues out there. As I told you, we use specific standards to rate the pipe. I won't go into all the detail, but as you can see, almost 65% of our pipe is unlikely to fail in the foreseeable future. That's because of its current condition. We have about a little over 1% of our pipe is actually under repair right now. That's where that $2.3 million, most of that money is going, is to try to replace and repair these pipes. We have another 7% of our pipes that are most likely to fail within the next 5 years. And we're trying to knock off those and get to those most severe pipes that might fail, cause blockages, have sewer back up in basements, pour out of manholes into creeks or streets. So that's what we're targeting, is those potential failure places. Here's a map. We're able to map where these deficiencies are. Again, we've come a long way in 3 short years. A real nice tool of being able to map this is, as we look at our capacity issues that we have, we can overlay where do we have capacity issues, where do we have structural issues, and that helps us prioritize how to spend those limited dollars, where we can get at both capacity and structural issues. It also helps us understand if you have a pipe that's way up on the end of a cul-de-sac and it fails, it may impact 3 residences. However, if you have a sewer pipe that's down near the river and it fails, that could impact thousands of residents. So we overlay those risk issues with the condition, again, to really try and target those resources we have.
I think I see my backyard as the first 5 years. That's
That may be
comforting.
So here's just some information we've gathered so far on our manhole inspections. We've just initiated this effort. As you can see, and we've gotten to a little over 50%. I'm sorry, we've gotten to all but about 40% of our manholes, or have attempted to. We have a few that are buried that we can't get to, that we've got to address so that we can do the inspection. Really, the inspections happen, it almost has to be 2 inspections. One is in the summer when the flows are low, and you can see are there issues all the way down to the bottom of the the manhole. And then in the winter, when the groundwater comes up, you need to do another inspection. Are there places where water and infiltration is coming in that we need to address? So it's quite an effort to get to all these manholes, but we will have data on those manholes similar to what we have on our pipe system here within a year or so. So then we respond to almost 300 service calls a year. We respond to almost 3,000 service line locates. Here's one of our Vector trucks. This was a sanitary sewer spill. We had a force main that broke, and we had raw sewage on the ground. They're out there responding. Won't spend much time on this. This is a breakdown of all the different calls we address by year. So we are tracking what are our issues out there. That helps educate us again. Where do we spend our money? What's happening in our system? We treat almost 3 billion gallons of wastewater in 2013. And that's an interesting thing because low flows can be around 6 million gallons a day. High flows can be 60 million gallons a day. So our crew that is out there at the water reclamation facility, there may be, you could call them zookeepers or farmers because they're tending to billions of organisms that are helping clean up our wastewater, making sure that they're happy and healthy. They're doing proactive maintenance on pumps and all sorts of other mechanical systems down there to keep things running. As you can imagine, we can't just wait for things to break and then fix it when you're getting 40 million gallons of water hitting the treatment plant. We're also operating talking water gardens. That's a new thing for us. We're into about year 3, and we're still learning what does it take to operate that on a yearly basis, working on getting the plants established out there. There's our treatment plant under construction, treatment plant, and the wetlands out there. We also maintain 11 sanitary sewer lift stations in the city of Albany, and by contract we manage or operate 4 lift stations for the city of Millersburg. Our mechanics, electricians, and control guys are out there. People are out there all the time, as you can see, responding in inclement weather. Just because it snows or the power goes out doesn't mean we can just go home. We've got to go make sure we don't have sanitary sewer backups and overflows. We also run an industrial pretreatment program in accordance with the DEQ regulations. I think we have 17 permitted industrial users that we monitor monthly, we work with. We respond to code enforcement issues, believe it or not. And we support our stormwater water quality programs. This is part of our industrial pretreatment, not a pretty picture, but it's things we deal with on a daily basis. Code enforcement, going out and addressing issues with illegal discharges and things like that. Here we had a paint spill into our storm drain system. So you remember I told you you can have issues at manholes. Here's a good example. And I'm moving into what do we do on the capital and engineering side of things. This issue took place, I think it was in February. This is a manhole along our riverfront interceptor, which serves a large portion of the city, taking lines that are coming through the downtown core area and then transporting that waste down to our wastewater treatment plant. A manhole here, we had a sinkhole open up, and we jumped on that. We had a contractor on board. We worked, I think, over 36 hours to get this done, but you can see it's a huge issue. We had a line break or sever there right at the manhole and brought in all this material. Worked late into the night to get things restored. So in addition to responding to emergencies, which we hope to reduce by investing in our system, the way we invest in it is replacing private sanitary sewer laterals. This is one of a city program that almost all residents like you when you're done with it, and that's fairly unique for a city program, but If someone has a failing sewer lateral and it meets specific criteria, the city will go in and replace that line one time. And we have a lot of happy customers and customers who use that frequently. Then we also design and manage the construction for all our capital pipe replacement. We do cured-in-place pipe, we do pipe bursting, and open trench. The first two we use wherever we can because those cost less and they're less invasive onto the streets and our customers' backyards. Here's a crew, a contract crew, doing a cured-in-place pipe. This is a pipe bursting operation where you put a bursting head in and it breaks up the pipe ahead of you and you drag this pipe in behind. And then here's an open trench project. You can see we're actually doing this project at night, minimizing traffic impacts. So in engineering, we also manage the city's response to water quality regulations. We have staff who is involved at the state and national level trying to keep our pulse on and direct regulatory issues, trying to minimize impacts on us from a financial standpoint, trying to make sure that those regulations are attainable, they're reasonable. So we do try to be proactive in managing that. Obviously, we're not in the driver's seat on that. We update and maintain our sanitary sewer system model. Again, that's important to show us where do we have capacity issues. We review development proposals, respond to citizens' inquiries, and bill 17,000 accounts monthly. That's bill and process payments. So we do a 5-year rate projection for you each year. You know, we keep that rolling through. We look at revenues, anticipated revenues and expenditures. And again, those are just anticipated, and things can change. On the revenue side, our biggest horse pulling the cart is our rates. SDCs comes along second. Those are very much development driven. We get a little bit from fees, and that's really our funding source for addressing all these issues, our debt, O&M, and capital needs. So we made the budget that you approved has we estimated that we're going to get about $14.25 million. That was based on a 6% rate increase. If an 8% rate increase is approved tonight, we will, well, we hope, assuming all the other assumptions stay the same, we will see an increase of over $200,000 in revenues. Those funds will be placed in capital reserve to be able to address capital issues as they come up and build those reserves to address the structural issues and the capacity issues.
Question.
Yeah.
According to financial sheet, we're now at 101% of revenue for the year. Is that?
I haven't looked at that, but that could be.
We have one more month to go.
We have a partial month. Some of the billings, so we bill in 5 different cycles. So throughout the month, people are getting their meters read and their bills sent through that time. So there will be some people who we have already collected anything we will collect from them in June. There'll be others that will collect through the remainder of this month, and then at the end of the fiscal year, obviously that rolls over into that next year.
My question then is about, if we're talking 6%, well, 6% plus 1%, whatever, plus whatever we get the rest of this month.
Correct.
Would be, so it could be 9%,
Well,
10%, including, or 9% if we do 6%, could be 3% over, 2 more percent, possibly.
well, so you're right. If we collect more than we anticipated and budgeted for, that goes into our beginning balance. And again, what happens with that money is it goes into our capital reserve. Now, next year, if our projections and our assumptions are correct, we're not, you're right, we would build our 6% or 8%, again, if everything stays the same, would be based on what we actually earned this year. Each year is a little different. We do our best to hit that target. We also generally try to not be over-optimistic on those revenue projections. Did that get at your question, or is there something else I can? Okay. So in our projections, we are conservative with our SDC revenue estimates. The 5-year projection is only assuming that in the out years, we're only getting $320,000 a year in SDCs. We've seen, and I've got a chart you'll see, we've seen an uptick in SDC revenue as development has happened. And next year, when we bring this to you, I'm going to be more comfortable if we have 2 years of this increase, of bumping this up. And I'll show you what the effect that might have on our rates moving forward. So here's our rate revenue history for the past 5 years. And here's where, as I said, the SDC revenues, our 5-year average is about 417,000. 3-year average, because of that big bump, is right around 429,000. You can see, though, in fiscal year 10-11 and 11-12, we were down around that $320,000. And as I said, in the projection you have before you tonight, we stayed conservative with the 320. Next year, we'll bump, assuming that we get increased revenue, we will bump that up. And that impacts, well, I'll get into it with the graph. It might be a little easier to see here. This graph, I think you've seen it before. What I want you to pay attention to is the lower end of the graph, and you have that dotted line that goes down to 0 in fiscal year 2016-17. That is the amount of money in SDCs we have that are eligible or available to pay their share of the sanitary sewer debt service. If our revenue goes up in SDCs, that dotted line will get pushed further to the left into maybe 17-18 or 18-19. As that gets pushed to the right, as it gets pushed further to the right, we need less rate money to make up that difference. So in those out years in 2016-17 through 18-19, maybe we won't need those same rate increases to maintain the targets we have right now. I hope that didn't confuse anyone.
No, if we get more development, life is good.
Life is better.
If you're an optimist, life is good.
So again, the $2.3 million is what our current target is. It allows us to address the worst pipes that we have in the next 10 years, but it doesn't address all our capacity issues and the issues down at the water reclamation facility. As I said, these are projections. There are variables out there. Rate revenues, up, down. SDC revenue, up, down. Personnel and operating expenses, we're working hard to keep those in line. And then you have the potential for unforeseen capital needs. However, as you invest more money in replacing these failed lines, your risk of unanticipated capital needs will drop. You're going to have less surprise failures. This is a graph that shows our projection for the next 5 years. Again, next year you'll get a new projection. And then this is a table, and I'm going to hand out a hard copy for you because I know it's hard to read there, but I'll let you take it home. I'm going to pass it out, and I'll mention something about it.
Can you also go back one slide, Mark, while that's being passed out? I was curious what happens to the far right, 18, 19. Is that 4%?
Yes, that's 4%, and it's not showing any other projection because that's the first time it's been in our 5-year window. So as you move forward, you'll see, same with the water rates. The 5th year out there, you'll see the new projection based on our estimates. I guess I should have explained this a little better. The blue that you see are the actual rate increases that were in place. In 2011-12, there was no rate increase. In lieu of a rate increase, $870,000 of Pepsi settlement money was transferred to the sewer fund to eliminate the need for a rate increase. Then in 12-13, we had projected that a 9% rate increase was needed, but our new projections brought that in at 8%. In 13-14, we assumed an 8% or projected an 8% was going to be needed, and indeed that's what was instituted. And then in 14-15, that's what we're talking about today. You see the 6% is the minimum we need to stay on track. The 8% is what we had projected previously. And then our projections further out really haven't changed, but if SDC revenues continue up, if rate revenue continues to beat our projections, those numbers could shift down if all we're going to do is maintain the targets we have today. Did that get at your question, Bill?
Yes.
Excuse me,
Thank
Councilor Coburn. So this table here, we've shown this table before, and unfortunately on the overhead, Albany doesn't show up real well. We're about a third of the way down the page. And you'll see that Albany is, we're showing our rankings for different usages of water. And this is complete and entire utility bills that different communities pay. Sewer, water, street, storm drain. Obviously, we don't have a street or storm drain utility. But a couple things I'd like you to note. In the colored highlights there are communities that are fairly close neighbors. And wherever it's highlighted, they actually have higher rates than the city of Albany. And I highlight that not to bash them, but oftentimes people throw out the idea Albany has the highest rates in the state. Well, we don't even have the highest rates in the area. The other thing I want you to note is our rankings. You'll see we're ranked, if just our base fees were 14th. Just 6 months ago when I came to you for the water rate increase, we were ranked 12th. So we're dropping down the scale. For 6 units of water, we were ranked 7th. Now we're 9th. We were 10th on 800 cubic feet. We're now 10th. What that's a reflection of, I believe, is other communities having to invest in their system as Albany has and is doing. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I appreciate your forbearance in letting me give the dog and pony show. Any questions?
Any questions of Mark? Okay. I think this was great presentation, Mark, and I hope this will be frequently on our city cable channel too, to kind of really inform the citizens, so that's great.
Will the PowerPoint also be available online for folks to?
We can make it online, yep, make it available.